Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Vibe with Kai podcast. I'm your host, Kai, ready to dive into another insightful conversation about life, about the world that we live in today. It's quite the world that we live in. I have a special guest whose voice has echoed through the creative industry, bringing hope and broadening mindsets. Do you like this intro so far? Isn't it
I
great?
feel so good
I
right now.
know. I
Keep
hope you feel
going.
special. Yes, she is an online business enthusiast, former therapist, and most notably the host of the Heather Parady Show, which is a podcast you can listen to anywhere you listen to podcasts. A woman whose quirky Arkansas upbringing has molded her into a strong, influential figure in the world of creatives. Ladies and gentlemen, give a warm welcome to the unashamed, unbashful, and definitely lit up Heather Parady. How was that?
I've gosh, I'm like, thank you. That's so sweet. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be with you.
Yeah,
And man, like I know you have like the word introverted like all over your content and your
yeah.
stuff, but I would never guess that about you. And then you reading that makes me kind of feel weird because the truth is like I'm really a loner and by myself a lot and I get lit up on camera and my content, but I'm
Yeah.
also like, don't talk to me. I'm really
No, that's legit my
energy drained. Oh,
yes, 100%. Because like people say to me that sometimes in the comment sections of my posts, people will be like, "There is no way you're an introvert. You have a personality." And it's like I don't think people like understand sometimes that like it's all about the drainage of your battery, right? So like I'm an introvert, but like I can talk to people. I don't mind being around people. It's just like once it's time to go, like
it's
I'm
time
not
to
gonna
go.
talk to you. Like I don't want to be around you anymore.
Do you see this? I have this big fluffy rug behind me, and
Yes,
every time
yes.
I get done with a client call or an interview, I usually lay flat on my back right there and just do deep breathing for a while. And somebody one time found out that I did that, and they were kind of offended. They're like, "Did I drain you of your energy?" And I'm like, "It has nothing to do with you. It has to
Nothing to
do
do with
with
you.
I give out so much
Hmm.
that when it's my time, it's like, where's
Hmm.
my journal? Where's my candle? Where's my snuggie?"
Hmm. Yes, yes.
Mhm.
That people take it personally sometimes, and I always have to tell them, don't take it personal. Like this is
Yeah.
just how my brain and my body works. Just give me a second, and then I'll do whatever you need me to do. This is really cool because you're like I love talking to people like you because you're a podcaster as well. You're
Yep.
also a former therapist, and like a lot
Yep.
of my stuff is about mental health and
Yep.
all that. So you're a podcaster, a former therapist, among many other things. But I gotta ask, who are you? Who are you, Heather Parody? Who are you behind the scenes? Can you share a little bit about your personal life?
I
Who
don't
are
know.
you?
I'm still trying to figure that
Who am I
out.
talking to? Who am I talking to right now?
Who are you? What's your soul's purpose? What's your calling? I'm literally gonna go lay down on this rug when this is over. Um, man, I just had my human design read, and I'm gonna get woo on you real
I just
quick.
learned about that. I didn't know that was a thing.
Ah, yeah, it's weird. It's crazy. When I got it read, I'm just like, have you been peeking in my window my whole life? It was really creepy. But
Uh,
one, I'll tell you what it said, and maybe that'll
uh,
answer your question.
yeah.
It says that I'm someone who has to have a mission and has to
Mm,
be in service and have to feel like that I'm doing a cause. Like cause is really, really important to me.
ooh,
Um, I'm not. I'm the worst small talk gal in the world. Like you come
same.
over, I'm like, "What's your calling? What?" Like you just did to me, I do to you. Okay, I love that stuff. And the human design said that I'm called to people who are misunderstood and unseen.
Mm,
And I feel that deeply because I felt that way my whole life, just kind
mhm.
of, again, despite my personality, what I seem like online, really misunderstood and really unseen. And
Interesting.
I love those people and I feel called to them.
Right, right. And you were, if I'm not mistaken, you were homeschooled, right? And you grew up you
Whoop,
grew up in
whoop.
Ar I know, right? You were homeschooled in Arkansas in Arkansas. Have those has I guess homeschooling in Arkansas, how much has that like shaped who you are today? Like how much of that
Huge.
plays into the people plays into the person that people look at and listen to every day?
I lived a very isolated life,
Mm,
very, very isolated. And it wasn't just being homeschooled and in Arkansas. But my mom, love you, mom. I know she'll never hear this, but she really held us back away from a lot of
mm,
people in general. So socialization was something that I just wasn't exposed to until I got older. And so,
Right.
as you can imagine, the social awkwardness of coming into, I mean, I'm talking like, dude, you have no idea. Like, being inside looking out the window seeing other kids like
Right.
it
Right.
was that kind of lifestyle. I mean, granted, there were times we were let out of the house. I'm trying to say we were locked in or anything, but it was a very isolated existence. And I don't know if that maybe
Mm-hmm.
kind of plays into my introversion now, where I really like being alone because that's my
Mm-hmm.
homeostasis.
Right.
But that coupled with a not a lot of exposure to the world, and kind of like, I know this sounds really weird, but the kind of silly vibe stuff that people have, I just, I'm not good at it.
That's fair. I get
I don't
that.
even know how to explain it or whatever. So yeah, I'm kind of grateful for it because it's made me a little quirky and weird, and I've learned to embrace it as
Yeah.
I'm 36 years old. I'm getting more and more comfortable in my
Same.
skin every day. Are
No,
you?
30, I am 30. I just turned 36 in May.
I love this age, and I was afraid of getting older, but now I'm like,
Yeah.
man, this is really cool because I'm getting a lot less aware of people's perceptions, or I
Yeah.
just don't care anymore.
Do you like your 30s better than your 20s? Because I like my 30s
Oh,
better than my 20s. Like a lot.
and I'm trying to tell myself, yes, and I'm trying to tell myself that 40s I'll feel the same way because I'm a little nervous about that.
Mm,
How do you feel?
I
Are you
am
nervous
so
getting
I
40?
am I am a little nervous. I am because it's funny. When I was younger, I used to think of people in their like 30s and 40s as people
I
that had their shit together, right? And then I sit here sometimes. I'm like, am I in the right spot? Am
know.
I?
I know. I've been thinking a lot about age and our,
Mm.
oh, damn, we're all over the place. I'm sorry, but the
Oh
just
no,
this
I have ADHD, so this is my life. This is my life right here.
okay, good.
We're fine.
Good. This societal narrative around what it means to be older and your
Mm,
purpose and your value and even like appearance, because I don't know, you tell me because you're a dude, and again, I don't want to make like gender generalizations,
yep.
so forgive me. But growing up identified as a woman in this space, like the thought of, you know, my face looking different, and I can already
Mm,
see it happening a little bit, and
hmm.
I can feel like my parts of my body feeling a little softer than they used to
Yes.
feel. And I'm like 36 and I'm like, damn, like, why is my narrative around this so harsh
Yeah.
where I can't be like feeling really sexy and good about that
Hmm.
as opposed to sadness and dread? And I know it's a societal
That's what I was gonna bring. I was gonna ask, like, do you think that any of that has to do with what we see every day when we, turn on the
yes.
TV, when we watch movies, when we're scrolling through social media? That all plays a factor into how we perceive ourselves sometimes, right?
It does. And that's why I'm
Yeah.
excited about people like you who put out, great content, and because we have media, literally like a new media in our hands that
Hmm.
doesn't have to come from streaming or whatever.
Hmm.
Content creators, that's what's so cool about what we do, is we can literally start shifting some of those narratives,
Yeah. 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 And I try my best because there there is a lot of darkness, a lot of negativity on social media. And I think because of that, it's easy to blame social media for a lot of different things. But I think also people just tend to overlook the fact that there's so much good out there on social as well. Like people like you that are helping people like legit every day, which we're going to talk about in a second. You're helping people. I try with the limited like power that I have, platform that I have. Like I
Mhm.
want to help as many people as I can, and there are so many people out there. And in fact, one of your most recent guests, my friend Joe Tang, who I love to death.
I
I,
love
I
him.
love him. I've known him. We connected during the pandemic. Have you ever? Did you hear about the pandemic? It was kind of crazy. Did you hear about it?
Oh, what happened?
Just the world was weird for a second. It was
It's all good
weird.
now, but it's all good now.
Yeah, it's all fixed. We solved
We're good.
everything. Everybody's healthy. There's no racism. Everybody's like just a-okay. It's
It's all
great.
good. Let's go
Yeah,
back to
everything's
the
good. We solved
norm.
we solved everything. But people like Joe spend their like they use their platform to inspire as many
Mhm.
people as possible. And do you seeing that you use your platform to help people, do you ever feel a pressure? Like you were talking about how, as we get older, we scroll through social and we have like these things that we think we're supposed to be, right?
Mhm.
Do you ever feel a pressure to help people not feel that way?
No,
Or
that's so
like,
interesting.
yeah.
Um, do I ever feel a pressure to help people not feel, tell me the word.
Um, we could just sit here in silence for 20 minutes. I think we could do that instead of I can't think of any words. You want me to think of words? I don't have words.
Help so,
Words.
so pressure just to help people in general, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Because we were talking about how you and I, as we get older, we feel like this weirdness, right? Like we're getting older, our
Mm.
faces are different, our bodies are different.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people that listen to the stuff that we make might feel the same way.
Mm.
Do you feel any pressure to give them comfort? Like, do you feel an obligation to do that, or do you just kind of do you try to validate any of those feelings?
Oh gosh, I'm so glad you're bringing this up because I haven't, but now I'm kind of asking myself, why have I not talked about this more?
I ask myself
Um,
that every day, like in your defense, because like I ask myself this every day. I'm like, am I approaching this the right way? You know, like
yeah.
as a content creator, like we were talking before we hit record, like as content creators, like people, I don't think realize how much we ask ourselves these questions.
Don't don't you think it's interesting? I'm curious your
Mhm,
perspective on this, how, you know, we're shifting away from the guru
mhm,
vibe. People are kind of over
mhm,
that. And then we kind of went real authentic where people are
mhm.
like dear diaring us. And so
Yeah,
it's kind of this weird medium thing of like wanting to add value to people's
yeah.
lives while still maintaining transparency. And it's
Mhm.
really interesting trying to figure out how to do this. And
It's a
I
weird
felt crippled.
balance.
Yeah, I felt crippled a
Mhm.
lot within content because I'm like, I want to help people and add value and blah, 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 blah. But then
Right.
on the other sense, it's like you don't want to come across like you don't doubt yourself every single freaking day. How do
Yes.
you deal with
Yes.
this, Kai? Help me.
No, that's a great question because like you've seen my stuff. Like I try to radiate as much
You're so
positivity as
funny.
possible. I try.
I love it.
Like, but the thing is, because of that, a lot of people think that I'm smiling and happy
All the
time,
time. Yeah.
all the time. And I have to sometimes tell people like, hey, listen, this is all very like I'm a genuine person. Like what you see, that is me, right?
Hmm.
But it's all very curated, right? It's
Yeah.
very, very curated. So um, you have to be careful when you assume things about a person that you follow, even if they're being genuine, because we don't put it all out there. Like
Hmm.
there is a level of privacy and boundaries that we have, and we try to be as genuine as possible. But when we try to radiate positivity, but we also want to find that balance of being true to ourselves and being true to what the situations that we're in, and that's hard,
Yeah.
really hard because you also don't want to radiate toxic positivity, which I think is worse at times.
In fairness, I say this quite a bit to folks, and maybe it's comforting myself. I don't know. We're the first like real generation to try to figure out what it means to be a human being online and
Mm,
try to navigate the implications of that because think
mhm,
about it, our parents didn't have to deal with it. You
mhm,
and I, people in our age group, are figuring out human emotion, business, content,
mhm.
relationships, all the mental health in not only the regular world but the digital world. So the fact
Yes.
that we're confused, like give us, everybody or yourselves a little grace because it's
Mhm.
like we're pioneering a path that no one in history has ever had to
Yes.
pioneer
Yeah,
before.
we're kind of like like a bridged generation because we like I remember what life was like before cell phones. I remember
I
what it was like
know.
before we were on the internet all
You
the
got bored. Do you remember getting bored?
time. Well, I would go outside. I would hang out with my friends outside. Like that was our social. That
There
was
were
our
these
social
things that
media.
had wings on them and they went sheep, sheep, sheep. It was really cool. They would just like float by and you don't, I mean,
They're extinct. They're not there anymore.
I
They're
haven't
all
seen
gone.
them in a long time.
Yeah, yeah. If you see one, it's not real. So how do you escape? Heather, like how do you like all of the stuff that you work on as a content creator and all of that, how do you take care of yourself and just like escape from all of it for a little bit? What do you do?
I don't do a good job at it. at all.
Hmm. Me neither.
I'm trying to figure that out. I think I just mentioned to you this book I read that messed me up called The E Myth.
Mm,
And people have been recommending it to me for a few years. I'm like, that sounds boring. And then I
hmm.
just read it last month. And it was weird how the universe works because this
Hmm.
was the year I needed to read that book. But it's talking about putting in more. Like, God, this is gonna sound boring, and y'all are probably gonna like click off here. You're like, oh my God, this is nerdy. But systems and processes to make your life a little easier. Because creative space, like I know I could be way better if I had space to think.
Mm,
But right now, I'm just because I have a full time business. Like my
hmm.
business is effing full time,
Right.
and then I'm putting out content.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't ever step out of it and look at it. You're working in your business versus on it. That whole thing.
Hmm. Right.
I don't do a good job. The only thing that I do for myself is I run every day,
Mm,
and that's a sanctuary.
hmm.
But hit me up in a year because I hopefully will be in a better spot than I am now. Because right now it's madness. I'm not even gonna lie
It's
to
really
you.
hard. It's really hard because some people think that I make content full time, and I in a way do,
Isn't
right?
it funny
But
when
like
people
I
think
have a
that?
full time
I'm
job. I have a 9 to 5. Yeah, I'm the executive director of paid media at a digital marketing firm. So from 9 to 5, I'm in that world, and I
yeah,
come home and I make content. We were talking about how on Saturdays, like those are our content days that we put
yeah,
together a lot of things. Um, so it is nonstop, and just like you, I do struggle with it too. I do feel that I'm at an advantage sometimes in comparison to some other creators because like when I get home, it's just me and my cats. Like
yeah,
I'm not married. I don't have children. I don't like
yeah.
it's just me and my two boys, Hamilton and Bert, and like that's it. So it's easy for me to kind of disconnect a little bit. Is it? Do you have that kind of ability to disconnect? Do you come home to somebody, or is it just like you and it's like close the door, leave me alone?
Yeah, I have a family. I have a husband. I have two
Hmm.
kids. A cat. I tell you that's also really hard because I'm married to someone who isn't an entrepreneurial creative
Mm,
person at
okay.
all. So the
Hmm.
language of trying to understand why
Hmm.
you work past 5 on things that aren't necessarily paying you money.
Yep.
Because I put it on my Instagram the other day, and I'm gonna start talking louder about it. I don't make money off my content. I
Hmm.
have made money off my content. I know that's the smart thing, and I know that's the goal, but I also understand long-term game, and that's
Sure.
gonna take me a long time. Let me not put that in the universe. It'll take me time to see that translated, in dollar bills, but that's not the
Yeah.
reason I do it. The reason I do it is because I'm called to do it and I love it.
Hmm.
So communicating that, in a relationship's been so hard. And
I
I'm
would
not saying
imagine.
anything I haven't said before out loud.
Hmm.
Um, because you don't just have to physically remove yourself. You also to have that communication issue of like, why the hell
Hmm.
are you on Saturday night for the past 5 years doing that?
Yeah. That admittedly, Heather, I think that's also one of the reasons why I just number one don't seek relationships, and number two, if I am in one, it's hard for me to stay in one because there's not too many people that understand the hustle that people like you and I go through. Some like in this regard, right? So like there, my Saturday is always content creation. I'll come home and it's like I'll get something to eat and I'm content creation,
Yep.
or I'm studying something. Like it's always something that like playing the long form game, like you were mentioning, like it's stuff that I know is going to benefit me in the future. Will it give me any kind of reward right then and there? Probably not. Right?
Yeah.
There's so many late nights, and I'm like, why did I say I'm,
I
but
know. I know.
but I know that's going to help me in the future. And there's not too many people that understand that hustle that we have.
Yeah, and sometimes I wonder, I'm like, do you need therapy, Heather? Like what's wrong with you
Hmm.
where, and I've talked to a few of my other creator friends about this where we almost yeah, I say envy even though we really don't. Like just kind of look at other people and like why how can you be so satisfied like
Hmm.
getting off and just chillaxing? But
Right.
I don't know, man. Like I just, and to get spiritual on you, I just feel like God has put
Hmm.
something in each of us that we have
Hmm.
to honor and we have to cultivate and we have to be loyal to.
Yes.
And whether it was induced more by some trauma and shit that happened in my past or whatever it was, I know this like fire in me that has to be
Mm.
expressed. And one day I believe I'll answer to that. And it's hard too because I got two babies, and I want to be a good mama to them. And
Right.
but also they're two little girls, and I'm like, I want you to see a woman who's lit up and
Hmm.
fights for things and works her ass off because she's true to herself. Because maybe one day, you're going to be a painter and
Yeah.
you'll remember that, and maybe they'll end up in therapy. And I'm wrong about all this, but it's rough, man. I mean, there's more
Yeah.
questions than answers.
Well, you mentioned therapy, which is great because you used to be a therapist.
Yeah.
You used to do this. So how has being a former therapist, how does that affect your day to day now? Like how much does that come into play?
All day, every day. Because here's the deal, and this is truth. It's not just like my clients, it's me too. The thing we think is the thing is not the thing. You know what I mean? Like
Mm,
we think we have an issue with my landing page isn't loading right, but the reason we're blowing up and kicking the cat.
I'm triggered right now. Sorry.
You know what I'm saying? The
Yeah.
reason we're blowing up and we're acting a fool over some of this stuff has some deeper issues going on here. It's like, okay,
Mm,
why is this triggering me so bad? And I just had this conversation with a client the other day and like super good dude, but I'm like, you have to get comfy with
mm,
things breaking and not working out and there being issues. Because when you're working in tech, that's a daily occurrence. And so
mhm.
this stress and this anxiety that's coming up all the time, like we have to learn how to manage that.
Right.
So I'm not like giving therapy to people, but in the same sense, I recognize things a lot more
Mm,
that it's like, oh, okay, like this person's not an asshole. Like
mm,
there's something else going on there. And even in
right.
myself,
Right.
friend, like where I realize my own shit a lot more. Like I came
Hmm.
out of therapy school going, I needed therapy.
Hmm.
Sorry, I'm
I
cussing
think
on your
we're
show. Is that
self-aware.
okay?
Oh, yeah, you're fine. You're
Okay.
fine. Trust me, you're fine.
Okay.
I think we're also very self-aware. I think
Yeah.
people like you and and like sometimes that drives me nuts how self-aware I am because I think sometimes and I talk with this with my therapist. I'm like I'm pretty sure that I'm thinking about something that I don't need to think about. I'm pretty sure that I'm just like in my brain about something that either I'm doing or wearing or saying or presenting, whatever it
Hmm.
may be, that I really shouldn't, but like I'm very particular about it. I'm very self-aware about the things that I put out there and how I present myself. And it like drives me nuts sometimes, but it's also I feel like it's a blessing and a curse, right? Because I'm self-aware enough to like prevent myself from putting myself in awful positions, but I'm
Hmm.
also self-aware enough to the point that it sometimes holds me back, I think.
I asked Joe, our friend, the other day this. I'm
Mhm.
curious with you. Would you consider yourself to be empathic?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Tell me what that means for you. How
that
does that manifest for you?
That's a great question. I am 100% an empath. It is easy for me to put myself in the shoes of other people and
Hmm.
try to understand what they're going through. And I get shit for it all the time. And I'll give you the perfect example because it happened recently, right?
Okay.
So most recently we had the submarine that imploded down in by the Titanic, right? All over the news, big thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So people, understandably so, which is fine, whatever, however you feel about it, were like, oh, they're billionaires, fuck them, right? Like they're like all like that kind of mindset. And for me, it was really, really, really hard
Mm.
for me to just say fuck them. I couldn't do it. All I was thinking about was, oh my God, they were in this situation just as a human being.
I know.
They're in this situation and they died. And now their families are affected, their friends are affected. Like, would they have the same empathy for me? Probably not. Would they care? Probably not. But like that's also just not how my brain works.
I
So
know.
like I felt awful. Like before we found out what actually happened, I was like, they're stuck down there and they don't know how to get out. I don't care how much money they have, blah blah, blah. Like I got when I tell you that I got so much shit for it, like you would have
Mm.
thought that I was like running over people's pets with my car. Like it was that bad. And it's just really, really difficult for me to think that way. But I also understand why people think that way about billionaires and millionaires. But I'm like, man, but they're also a human being. And I'm like, okay, if they just quote deserve to die, like I would ask people sometimes, would you pull the trigger? If you had a gun to their head, would you pull the trigger? And if their answer was no, I would be like, what is that? Why? Why? What is that right there? What is the reason behind it? And just try to have people think of it that way. I don't think that they deserve to die. I just don't, I hate that mindset. And I got so much shit for it. So I stopped talking about it, to be honest. I just stopped talking about it.
So do people think they deserve to die because of their status in life or because
Yes.
of why? What,
Hmm.
what what do you think that is? Like what is it?
Well, I mean, there are billionaires, even millionaires in the world that do not, they're probably, they may not be good people. They don't give back to the community. They don't help as many people as they probably could or should, whatever it may be.
Mhm.
We don't know, right? But there is a big disconnect between the upper class, middle class, and lower class, and those gaps
Sure.
are widening
Widening,
by the
right,
day.
right.
And so there is a growing anger towards the upper class. Once again, understandably so, because
Right,
like
right.
I get it. I totally get it. They take advantage of the poor. Like 100%. I get it. But like I still can't be like, oh, oh well.
That's what's blowing my mind here is I
Hmm.
get, I completely understand, agree with wealth gap and just
Hmm.
the, insane shit that's going on in our country. The
Hmm.
human being element to it, I'm
Hmm.
with you of the sense of I God, please help don't call me on this, but don't understand like good somebody died.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? That's so
Hmm.
interesting to me.
Right. And sometimes what people would say, because I would be like, I don't know if anybody really deserves to die, right? And they would say, well, what about Hitler? And I'm
Right.
like, well, I mean, I feel like these are like I don't think it's okay to compare somebody that like publicly murdered
Right.
millions and millions and
Right.
millions of people
Right.
versus a billionaire who went down in a submarine because he had the means to and he likes adventure. Like I just don't get the comparison. But to anybody listening right now or watching that's like, rah, like, don't get me wrong, I get it. I get why
Yeah,
you dislike
totally.
them. I get it. It's just
Totally.
really to answer your previous question. It's just like I feel like I'm an empath to my demise at sometimes because like I'll give people the benefit of the doubt all the time, and people have taken advantage of that with me.
What do you think is the because I'm with you.
Hmm.
I will almost I can't get it out of my head. Like there's been I don't even want to say it out loud because I'll start thinking about it again, but just some injustices and things that's happened
Hmm.
and I get so angry and I can't stop thinking about it. And,
Hmm.
Brian will sometimes be like, well, just get it out of your head. Just stop thinking about it. I'm like, I can't, Paul. I can't do it. And so I try to remind myself, I'm like, okay, this is a gift. There's a
Yeah.
gift hidden in this deep feeling and this almost
Hmm.
obsessive kind of whatever that we have. What do you
Hmm.
think that is? And how have you used it either in content or your work or whatever to help humanity?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I just I want to try to understand people as much as possible, right? Even like politically, right? There are people that I disagree with politically,
Sure.
but I'll listen and I'll try to learn because like, will I end up agreeing with them? Probably not.
Right.
Like I know where my morals stand. I know what I believe in all of that, but I'll listen and I'll try to sometimes convey what they're trying to tell us to other people just for the sake of
Mm,
hopefully understanding why they feel that way. I'm not saying that they have to like believe them. I'm not even saying that they have to like care, right?
mm,
But like hopefully having not having blinders up and being like
mm,
my way or no other way. I
mm.
hope people are able to expand their horizon, take in as much information as possible, and then make their decisions from there. And I try hard, but I also want to respect people's like thoughts and beliefs because I would expect the same in return. I just don't try to like push my thoughts or beliefs on other people.
Tell me
I
what you think
try.
about this. Tell me what you
Hmm.
think about this. The term bridge has been on my heart a lot lately
Hmm.
about I feel kind of called to that work of because
Hmm.
I'm with you. I don't know if it's the
Yeah.
empathic thing, but I also think millennials are a little bit in kind of the bridge area too because
Yes.
you have crazy ass parents and then
Yeah.
Gen Z who and these are like the most two opposite
Yeah.
folks in the world. And I feel like millennials have like kind of filled like this bridge area where it's
Hmm.
like we grew up here and we understand a little bit. We see the mistakes here, but we
Hmm.
also are young enough to get what Gen Z is saying.
Absolutely.
And so like there's this communication thing here where we're the
Yes.
bridge.
Yes, I'm so happy you said that because I'm curious if you have the same mindset as me. I oftentimes hear people shit on Gen Z and Gen Alpha. I'll never do it. I'll never
Preach.
do it. And I'll
Amen.
tell you
Come
why.
on.
I'll
Tell
tell
me.
you why. They just because you don't understand something doesn't mean that they're wrong, right? So like I work in marketing and I work with a lot of clients that are older, maybe like 50s, 60s, 70s, right? And they'll be like, we have these young kids, we don't know how to talk to them. They're always on their cell phone. And I'm like, well, number one, who created cell phone? I believe that was you guys. Number two, who bought them cell phone? I believe it was you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Number three, if you're having trouble communicating with them, try asking them questions,
Come on.
maybe hearing them out.
Come on.
Like you
Yeah.
have to be able to do that. Otherwise, you're gonna be frustrated. But the
Yep.
minute that you decide that you're gonna just not try to understand why Gen Z is the way they are, I might add, I think Gen Z, Gen Alpha, some of the smartest people that I've seen and interviewed and in my life, because we have these phones and we have these contraptions
Yep.
that's able to give us information out the
Yep.
wazoo from all over
Yep.
the world, and they're able to take that information and process it, and they know more by the age of 15 than most people knew by the age of
I
40.
know it.
And so like it's like why not try to learn from them because they are the future. So if you're running a business, are you going to let your business die because you don't want to learn how to communicate with the next generation, or
Mm-hmm.
are you going to talk with them? And to your point, millennials are that bridge because we've seen it both ways, so
I
it's
know.
easier for us to like hear what Gen Z is going through. And it's easier for us to hear what Gen X and the boomers are going through because we're right in the middle. Look,
And then
we're
you
always right in the
compound that
middle.
with empathy and being
Yes,
empathic. It's like we're a double bridge. Because then
yes,
we start really feeling,
yes,
yeah, man.
yes. It's
Yeah.
great. And I see this is why I like talking to other content creators and pod. Nothing, no offense to any other person that I that I've interviewed, but
It's
I love
different.
having like the conversations. And for people that don't know who you are, that don't
Mm.
listen to your podcast, does your podcast operate in a similar way? Do you like just having like these like conversations?
I do,
Hmm.
and I'm so glad we're going to do this on 2 weeks.
The 11th, I think. Yeah.
And it's going to be so easy with you, and I'm so grateful for that. But I've found this where it's, although that's the intent,
Hmm.
it doesn't always work out that way. And I'm trying to get better at being a better creating a better atmosphere, and you're great at it. You're so good at what you do.
Oh,
But
thanks.
just creating the environment, because my tendency is to be like, oh, people aren't conversational. And
Hmm.
sometimes that's true. Sometimes that's really true.
Yes, yes, it is.
But also like when with Chat GPT, I'm like, Chat GPT gave me a shit answer. I'm like, well, maybe you put it in a bad prompt.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? So
uh-huh.
I've really got to level up. I've done, this show where, at like 120, 130, but I've had multiple, or almost to 1,000 episodes between all the shows I've
Hmm.
hosted. And so I'm
Hmm.
really comfortable and good with, interviewing. But I
Hmm.
think my next task is to get really, really good at creating an atmosphere where no matter what personality you have, you can kind of let
Yes,
go a little bit because
yes.
not everybody's like you, like this kind of
You
freedom.
have to adapt. You have to learn. You have like to anybody that's listening that wants to get into like podcasting and stuff like that.
Man.
Like I've been doing it for 3 years. If there's one thing I've learned, you have to adapt to
Yeah.
the environment and to the people because
Yeah.
if you can't do that, like
So
I learned
true.
that fast because I had like everything was super structured and it needed to go as planned. And the minute that it went off the rail, I was lost. I was like, oh no. And just being able to adapt is important. And like you've interviewed you like you just mentioned that you've interviewed thousands of people.
Hmm.
What have you learned from that? Like what from the thousands and thousands of people that you've spoken with, what have you just learned as a collective?
Oh, man, we are all so freaking much alike and we try so hard to be different.
Ooh, I love that. Please continue.
We present ourselves differently. You know, you'll have somebody come on very professional, dressed up,
Hmm.
three cameras, blah, 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 and they've recited everything 400 times and they don't want anything to do with you and they're ready to get off by my book.
Yeah.
Then you have people who are, just chill out. I had somebody one time in a grocery store grocery shopping when I interviewed them. I'm like, are you serious? like,
No. Oh
like I've had
no.
like this scale or whatever, but no matter what the topic or whatever, it's so interesting how things always come back around
Hmm.
to something really internal that we have to deal with before we can ever get to where we want to go. No matter, it's always like it's a tactical thing. Oh, it's the
Hmm.
blockchain. Oh, it's this, it's that, or whatever. No, no, no. There's always like this deeper rooted issue,
Hmm.
this thing inside of ourselves that we've got to deal with before anything will move. And when we can really get there, we're all saying we want love. We want to be loved. We want to belong.
Hmm.
We want to feel safe. We want to feel seen. And no matter what, that's the end game with all these people I've talked to. I don't know if you've
Absolutely.
experienced the same thing or not, but
Yeah, I've learned a lot. I just like to listen to people. I think that's probably the biggest thing that I've learned because I've learned so you can learn so much just by listening to people, not just hearing
Mhm.
them, but listening and trying to understand the what do you call it in like Wizard of Oz, like the person behind the curtain,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
to understand how a person operates, you actually end up learning so much about yourself as
Mm.
well. And it's such a beautiful thing to learn about, especially from a mental health standpoint, because like like it's like, oh my God, I should okay, I'm gonna write that down. I like that a lot. Because that's all I'm about. I have a couple more questions for you
Sure.
that I want to ask because like you're amazing and I'm so happy that
Gosh, I
like
wish we lived closer to hang out with you all the time. You're so
I
fun. You're
know
so
I'm just
fun.
gonna I told you right now I'm in Durham, you're down in Georgia. I'm just gonna drive down. I'm just gonna
Do
drive
it.
down. Yep, right now.
As long as there's a waffle, we're good.
Yeah. Do you and chicken? Can we do chicken and waffles?
I've never had that, but
Okay,
I really wanted to try it just because it sounds so weird.
it's delicious. It's amazingness.
I don't know, but I mean, I'll try it, but
You're not
kind
gonna
of
regret it. I promise you.
okay.
I
Okay. I
promise you
believe you. I believe
that.
you. All right.
So a couple more questions. One of which, because we were talking about content creation, talk about your podcast and all of that. Not everything is going to go as planned, right? Like with the content that you put out there, especially when other people, because other people have opinions and they like to let you know their opinion sometimes. How do you deal with the people that are just like, screw you, Heather, I don't agree with any of this, or you're not a good host, or you're not a
Mhm.
good content. Like, how do you deal with that on a personal level?
Well, it always hurts my feelings, and for me
Hmm.
to just be like, "Oh, I got a hater's gonna hate," like I don't have that attitude. Like
Yeah, yeah,
it hurts my feelings, and
yeah.
it sucks for I'll pout about it for the night or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, I told you earlier that kind of thing that just won't let you go, and I've had this conversation before with people who just didn't understand why I show up and constantly do this.
Hmm.
Because I mean, I don't have as big of a following as you, like I don't have a lot to show for all the work that I've put in yet. So people are like, why do you keep grinding? Why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep doing this? I can't not, you
Hmm.
know, there's a scripture in the Bible, and I'm going to totally jack this up. And if you are a pastor, please mute this for a minute because I'm going to
You
really
right
F this
now.
up. But there's, when one of the disciples came to Jesus and said, or Jesus said to the disciple, "Why don't you leave me too?" And the disciple said, "Well, where else, Lord, would I go?" And not to make this like a ministry church thing, but I really do feel called to do the work that I do. I do. I
Hmm.
believe God put me
Absolutely.
on this earth to do
Yep.
this. And
Hmm.
so it's like somebody saying something to me, it hurts my feelings. But then I also look to God and I'm like, what else would I do here?
Hmm.
I don't have like an option to not use my voice. And I'm not saying I'm going
Hmm.
to podcast for the rest of my life or make stupid
Right.
reels or whatever. It might
Right.
change form. But the question of, is Heather Parody going to show up and use her voice in this life and this breath that she's been given? I don't have a choice.
Hmm. I think we're the same person. I think I'm talking to my twin right now. I
We're
think
twins.
we might have been separated at birth.
I think
I
we were.
think I
I think
think
we were.
because everything that you're mentioning and everything that we've talked about, like we're on the same page there. And
Mm,
I don't know what the next year holds for me. Like I honestly, like I never thought that I would be where I am today. Like my platform, like this has been five plus years
yeah.
of work
Yeah.
that like I've been working hard every freaking day.
Yeah.
And like I've been blessed to, kind of catch a break, every now and then, and to have a really, really great set of audience members. But it's hard work, and it's day in and it's day out and it's relentless. But I wouldn't have it any other way because it brings me joy,
Yeah.
not just for me personally, but to get like a message from somebody saying like, "Hey, Kai, because of you, I went to my doctor and got checked out, and I do have ADHD, and now I'm getting help
Yeah.
for it." Like that one type of message makes all of the shit worth it. I don't care if I have a million followers or 5 followers. Like if I have like this, if I know that I helped one person have a better day, all of this work is worth it. All of it.
I'm gonna tell you something I don't think I've like talked about, and I probably should talk about it a lot more. That and aging, you've given me a lot to think about. But um, I did have an audience at one point. Um, you go through seasons as a creator where things
Mhm.
pop and things don't. I started a show with a friend, um, and it took off. I mean, we had
Mhm.
like in 8 months, 1 million downloads. We had a
So,
following. Like we were
mhm.
able to have some really cool opportunities with it. And really in 1 week, it was gone.
Mhm.
And as somebody who has been really grinding as a creator to have a good size audience off the
Mhm.
bat, I was like, finally, my work
Yeah.
is paid off. And it came in a way that I didn't think it would, but it
Yeah.
felt so good to have some validation there, to have
Mhm.
some
Yes.
numbers, to,
Mhm.
whatever. And then when it was completely gone, I went into like this really dark place, not necessarily because that show was over, because it needed to be over, but that feeling of getting that validation that
Mhm.
something you were doing mattered, and then
Mhm.
it didn't anymore. And then now I'm going back to by myself and starting all over again with
Mhm.
like zero. I took a
Mhm.
screenshot of zero on my podcast thing, starting all over again.
Yeah.
And that was last year. Um, I have really had to do a lot of soul searching and talking to God of, what am I doing here and why am
Mhm.
I doing it? Because when the numbers are
Mhm.
there and then they're not, and you have to find something a little deeper to hold on to.
Mhm.
Um, it sounds really sexy me telling you this and inspirational, but it sucks and it's hard.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I'm also grateful
Absolutely.
because I feel like I'm
Mhm.
building on a strong foundation now of
Yes.
like calling, I
Mhm.
guess. That's
Yeah.
what I'm after.
Absolutely. When you mentioned the peaks and valleys of content creation, sweet Lord, baby Jesus. There's some moments that I was like top of the world, and there are some moments that I'm like, why the hell am I doing this? Why?
Yeah.
Why am I
Yeah.
doing this? But like I think, people like you and I are often reminded why we do it. Like we find those reminders, why we keep pushing every single day to get to where we want to be. And that actually leads perfectly into the last question that I have for you, which is for anybody, not just from a content creation standpoint, but just in life, where you might have peaks and valleys. What piece of advice would you give to somebody that's listening or watching right now that has their peaks and valleys, but right now they're probably in that valley. They feel like they're at a low point. What piece
Mhm.
of advice would you give to them right now?
Find something bigger than you and give your full heart to it. And I'm not going to tell you that it needs to be a certain religion or anything like that. It can be whatever language and word that you want to attach to that. But I believe with everything in my being that there is a very powerful force that loves you deeply and wants to hold you through that valley and is going to be there when it's peaking again and when it drops back
Mhm.
down again. And I don't know how you wrestle with it because, to your point, there has been so much freaking injustice in this world and so much pain
Mhm.
and so many things that are unfair. Um, that sometimes it really sucks to believe that there's something orchestrating and allowing all of that shit to happen. I personally don't know how I would wrestle with this life without knowing that, though, and just believing that I don't understand and there's some other world going on and one day I'll get it.
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
call that naive, but for me, it's like the only way I can deal with it. So figure out what that is for you. Work out your own salvation for your own thing. I have no other answer other than that.
I love it. I love it. That's a perfect answer, at least in my opinion. I love that. Heather, thank you. Thank you, thank you,
You're
thank you.
so great. I just want to be your friend. You're so
Well,
cool.
we're officially friends. It's
You're gonna have to go lay
official.
down when this is over though, because I drained all your energy.
No, actually, you know, it's funny because sometimes when you're with the right person,
Hmm.
your battery isn't drained as fast as it normally would. Like when you're when like because introverts love intimate conversations that have a
Preach.
point, right? We like you mentioned before, small talk. I hate small talk. I don't want to do it. But if you put me in a
Yep. Yep.
conversation with somebody that like wants to dive deep into something, I won't shut up. Like I
Yeah.
really won't.
Yeah.
Like I love every second of it. So honestly, Heather, thank you. Friends, you just listen and watch Heather Parody, ladies and gentlemen,
Yay.
beacon of hope and inspiration. You can listen to her show the Heather Parody Show. I'm going to put the links to all of that, including her social media handles. I'm going to put all of that in the description of this podcast, of this video. Heather, thank you again for hanging out with me today. I'm coming down. We're going to get some waffles. I'm glad you're a waffle person over
With some
pancakes.
chicken. With some
I'm just
chicken.
saying, with some chicken. Yes, yes. And
I have to say
it's really
thank you for the
funny.
work you're doing
Yeah.
in this world though,
Oh,
man. Like the people that you're impacting and touching and the fact that you don't have to, you know what I mean? You don't have to work all night and do all this stuff and put yourself out there, but look at the impact that you're making. When Joe sent me your profile and I was seeing what you were doing, I was like, this man's changing the world and it's just an honor to know you now.
I no, I appreciate that, and shout out to Joe for hooking us up
Joe a
for
tang.
making that connection.
Yeah,
Because Joe is a very very good person. He
I
was
love him.
Joe's one of my first friends on TikTok. And we like him and I started like that TikTok journey together like around the same time when
Really.
like Musically turned into TikTok. We started around the same time, and so we grew up together in a way in a weird 3 year
He's
grew
good
up together
people.
way. He's really good people. So shout out to you, Joe. My friends, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. As always, much love, good vibes, and I'll talk to you later. Bye, friends. Have a good day. See ya.